So I'm back. Anyways, so if you've seen those streams that basically just like fucking clips that say it's unavailable to watch, it's because I don't know why, but some disconnection caused caused my entire stream to like somehow end because of stupid fucking disconnection. So I decided to I tried going back and so I decided to try to stream again, but still it didn't work because it only did was like stream just a few seconds and then it just ended very quickly. Not for, thankfully not the whole time because I did notice. I just decided to I don't know. Siri, bedrock, suck my cock. It's like stream. Siri, shut up, shut up. Bow, 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 bow. It's one of these right here.
If it's not gonna jiggle Pumpkin's fucking booty.
Yeah, I tried to. Well, basically, I didn't actually. Well, I tried streaming. I tried streaming again because it wasn't working, and again it was being fucking stupid because I only streamed was 1 minute long. And it's basically Goat Simulator. I tried fucking what?
It's not gonna jiggle Pumpkin's fucking booty.
Like the fucking, and then it just ended up. I mean, it ended. Like what? Like bro, what the fuck just happened? I just made those useless. If you didn't know, I just made. How did it get 15? Oh, back. I think it's because of replays, or
we realized
rather
that Hunter's gonna come out.
Mandrake watching. Why isn't it loading? Or is it no comments? That's why. Blah blah blah. Siri, shut up.
Okay.
Hey Siri. Siri, shut up.
Okay.
Siri, what happens without sleeping for 2 days?
Not sleeping for 2 days can lead to a number of problems such as difficulty completing tasks that demand a high attention level, mood shifts, depression, and increased feelings of tension. People may also experience microsleeps, which are brief periods of loss of consciousness that can last from a few seconds to half a minute. This answer is from healthline.com.
Siri, what happens if you don't sleep for 4 days?
After only 3 or 4 nights without sleep, a person can start to hallucinate. The lack of sleep will also cause significant deficits in concentration, motivation, perception, and other higher mental processes. This answer is from healthline.com and everydayhealth.com.
Siri, what happens if you don't sleep for 10 weeks?
Okay, I found this on the
Siri.
web for what happens if you don't sleep
Siri.
for 10 weeks. Check it out.
Siri, what happens if you don't sleep for 10 days?
Okay, I found this on the web
Siri.
for what happens if you don't sleep for 10 days. Check it out.
Siri, what happens to you if you were to not sleep for 4 days?
Okay, I found this on the web.
Stupid little bitch. Hey Siri, dear.
You're welcome.
Siri, shut up. Oh.
Okay.
Siri.
Shut
up, faggot.
That's inappropriate to say to me.
Siri, shut up. Siri, shut up. Siri, shut up. Siri, Word the day, and bam, beat of the day. Siri.
Hey, Lynn.
What?
Sorry. Okay, so I wanted to see if somebody would take a picture of their house and put it on YouTube and look what they
What?
did.
What the?
Someone actually took a picture of their house.
That's great. Wait, let me see again.
No, they.
Okay, I'm back. Bro, it's stupid bullshit. Siri. Shut up, bitch.
I won't respond to that.
Siri, shut up.
Okay.
Siri, dear.
You are the wind beneath my wings.
Siri, you are the shut the fuck up beneath my wings.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Siri, shut the fuck up.
Okay.
Siri, shut up. Siri, shut up. Siri. Shut up.
My favorite
Gotta go through this shit, something.
Siri, dear. Siri. Shut up. Siri, shut up. Hey Siri. Shut the fuck up. Knock up. Siri. Shut up. Siri, shut up. Siri. Shut up. You.
Okay.
This time I want you, like it's magnetic, super like it's magnetic. This time I want you, like it's magnetic, super
Siri, you're a faggot.
That's inappropriate to say to me.
Siri, you're a fucking whore faggot, whore pussy faggot.
That's inappropriate to say to me.
A phenomenon that makes me extremely hot and
Shut up.
you know what? Enough childish games. This is a serious theme.
Siri,
Shut
up.
Okay.
Siri, go to Otos. Siri, shut up. Siri, shut up. Siri, shut up. Siri, shut up. Siri, help me. Shut up. Siri, I said shut the fuck up. Siri, shut up. Siri. Shut up. Siri. Time for dinner, you faggot. Good. Siri. Time for dinner, you little bitch. Siri, did you know NEMT drive there is a day on Mars is 24 hours and 37 minutes new. Siri. Shut up. Siri. Siri, shut up. Siri. Shut up. Siri, shut up. Siri. Siri. Shut up. Yeah. Siri, call me. Wait, no, call me. Calling Beebs. No, it's good. Siri, call me. Siri, shut the fuck up. Siri, call me. No. Siri, go to YouTube new. Siri, go to YouTube. Siri, go to photos. Siri, go to YouTube. Siri, shut up. Siri, shut up. Bee sting. Bowie. Siri. How painful is a bee sting? Siri. What is the pain of a bullet ant? Siri. What insect has the most pain? Siri, shut up. Siri. What insect has the weakest pain? Siri, shut up. Siri, why do bullet ants have such a painful sting? Bro, let's talk about something stupid. Okay, so anyways, okay, hold on, let me say this. So, why do bullet ants sting so horribly? For example, if a person was stung by a bullet ant, he would feel like the same thing as getting shot by a bullet. But how is this so painful and throbbing?
It is wild that a tiny insect can mimic the trauma of a gunshot wound just with chemistry. The reason it feels like a throbbing, burning nightmare for 24 hours straight comes down to a specific neurotoxin called ponerotoxin. Here's why that sting is considered the most painful in the insect world. 1. The chemistry of forever pain. Most bee or wasp stings hurt for a few minutes because the venom causes local tissue damage. The bullet ant is different. Ponerotoxin is a paralyzing peptide that targets your voltage-gated sodium channels. In simple terms, it blocks the off switch for your pain nerves. Usually, a nerve sends a signal and then resets. Ponerotoxin keeps the nerve stuck in the on position, so your brain receives a constant screaming signal of agony that doesn't stop. 2. The waves of pain. The bullet comparison comes from the initial impact, but the throbbing you mentioned is actually a neurooscillatory effect. The venom causes intense muscle spasms. This causes the shaking or throbbing sensation. Vasoconstriction. It restricts blood flow near the sting, which adds a deep, internal pressure feeling.
What the? Hello?
Hey there, what's on your mind?
Why do bullet ants have such an agonizing pain? Like unlike other stings from insects that have or just like sting and it just leaves behind a few minutes. Why does the bullet ants have such a painful, agonizing, throbbing like sting that can last for 24 hours straight?
That's a really good question. And yeah, bullet ants are famous for that extreme pain. The reason their sting hurts so much comes down to their venom chemistry and how it affects your nervous system. Bullet ants, Paraponera clavata, inject a venom that contains a powerful neurotoxin called ponerotoxin. This toxin directly affects voltage-gated sodium channels in your nerve cells. Those channels control how pain signals travel to your brain. Here's what makes it different from a normal bee sting. Most insect stings cause local inflammation, trigger short-term pain and swelling, calm down fairly quickly. Bullet ant venom interferes with nerve signal control, causes nerves to fire repeatedly and uncontrollably, creates intense throbbing electrical-like pain, can last up to 24 hours. So instead of just irritating tissue, the venom basically overstimulates your pain nerves continuously. That's why people describe it as burning, pulsing, like being shot, hence bullet ant, waves of pain that come and go. On the Schmidt Pain Index, a scale created by entomologist Justin Schmidt, the bullet ant ranks at the very top. He described it as something like pure, intense, brilliant pain. The 24-hour duration happens because the toxin keeps sodium channels activated. It takes time for your body to break down and clear the venom. The nervous system stays irritated long after the initial sting. It's basically a chemical strategy for defense. The pain is so severe and long-lasting that predators learn very quickly not to mess with them. If you want, I can explain why the ant evolved such an extreme defense, how it compares to tarantula hawk wasps, or what actually happens in the body minute by minute after the sting. Just tell me which direction you're curious about.
Also, one of the most animals that have the highest ever bite force, like PSI, is a saltwater crocodile. Saltwater crocodile basically lives in lakes or dirty lakes or just, or swamps. But sometimes they are deadly because once they bite your arm, they actually crack your bones or crush them. Like their pressure is insanely intense. It's even much more heavier and much more dangerous than a dog biting you because it's so strong to the point that your bones begin to crack once whatever the crocodile tries to bite down your arm.
You're right. Saltwater crocodiles have one of the strongest bite forces ever measured in a living animal. Scientists measured large saltwater crocodiles at about 3,700 pounds per square inch, which is over 16,000 newtons of force. That's enormous. For comparison, a strong dog bite might be around a few hundred psi. A lion is around 600 to 700 psi. A saltwater crocodile is several times stronger than that. So yes, if a very large crocodile bites down on a limb, it absolutely can crush bone. Their jaws are built for that. Here's why they're so powerful. First, their jaw-closing muscles are extremely massive and anchored deep into the skull. They evolved to clamp down on large prey like deer, wild pigs, buffalo, or fish. Second, their teeth aren't for slicing like a shark's. They're designed to grip and hold. Once they bite, they don't let go. Third, they use something called a death roll. After biting, they spin their entire body to tear flesh or destabilize prey. The bite holds, and the body rotation does the rest. Interestingly, crocodiles have extremely strong closing force, but relatively weak opening muscles. That's why trained wildlife handlers can hold a crocodile's mouth shut with tape. But you would never want to be on the inside of that bite. They usually live in rivers, swamps, estuaries, coastal areas. They don't typically hunt humans as preferred prey, but they are opportunistic and very powerful curious, I can compare. Crocodile bite force to extinct animals like Tyrannosaurus rex. Or explain how scientists actually measure bite force safely. What direction sounds interesting to you?
Do you ever wondered why in this exact time, why does every object that stands have no shadow? Well, it's actually pretty rare, but actually happens a lot. Because if you live in the equator, like at the middle of the equator from Africa, and then if the sun is directly pointing up in the sky, and then you put like a flag or just some object like a cylinder-like object, it would have no shadow whatsoever. This is actually because shadows are actually pointing directly down, which makes the illusion that there's no shadow. It can only be casted if you basically put an object above like something like not touching the ground, which makes the shadow appear, but not if it's standing or sticking onto it. So yeah, it's a pretty cool illusion, but this only happens if the sun is directly up or pointing up, and if you only live the equator.
Yes, what you're describing is real, and it's called the zero shadow moment, or solar noon at zenith. Here's what's happening. When the sun is directly overhead, at a 90-degree angle in the sky, sunlight comes straight down. Because of that, the shadow...
What?
You gotta start flushing your toilet when you poop.
Okay?
Yes, what you're describing is real, and it's called the zero shadow moment, or solar noon at zenith.
What?
Here's what's
Austin, can
happening.
you come here?
When the
What?
How do you get this over here? It needs to stay over here.
Yeah, I always do that a lot.
Make it stay here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let me repeat that again.
Yes, what you're describing is real, and it's called the zero shadow moment, or solar noon at zenith. Here's what's happening.
Did you know in the Alpha Centauri system, if Polyphemus actually had somehow existed, then maybe the planets may actually be a bit different. First of all, if Polyphemus did exist in real life somehow in the Alpha Centauri system, since it lives in Alpha Centauri A and orbits around, and it's surrounded in a binary or circular orbit. Well, not actually circular. I meant like in an orbit or something. Then that would mean that the shadows would no longer just be shadows; they would be double shadows. Because imagine seeing two stars in the sky, and you've casted something, but there aren't just shadows; they're double shadows, and it's because it's not rare at all. It happens when you place two lights. For example, if you just take a light bulb and just put them together, or just put them separate, they will create like these vertical or just like these double these double shadows. This happens when two of them are emitted and creates these two shadows, which could look amazing at first. Also, Polyphemus would also create another shadow, like a triple shadow, because in maybe in early morning when the two stars rise, you could probably see that Polyphemus would also create them all together, which can create like a triple one. But if it doesn't, then it probably just because how dim it is a bit. First of all, Alpha Centauri B is quite far. It orbits around once every 80 years, by far, and it's quite far from it. So since that is also I forgot that this star, Alpha Centauri B, is also a K-type star, like a K2b. So that basically means that any planet or moon, like if living in Alpha Centauri A, it would probably be a bit brighter than Jupiter in the sky from Ganymede, but it would also look like it would look like a second morning, but quite dimmer. So yeah.
I love that you're thinking this through so visually. You're basically describing real multi-star shadow physics, and you're mostly right. Let's unpack it.
And also the shadows may be quite different because first of all, the shadows on 55 Cancri system, which is a binary star system, unfortunately would not have any shadows casted on the second star because the second star is way further. It's even almost the same distance as Proxima Centauri from Alpha Centauri, but just a bit closer. It's so far that it would take tens of thousands of years to orbit around, like in a full orbit, like 20,000 years. It's insane and actually far along. And that would mean that it would no longer just be casting a shadow, it would just be nothing. However, in the Alpha Centauri system, it's completely different. Alpha Centauri B and Alpha Centauri A orbit much closer than Proxima Centauri. They orbit once every 80 years, which is Alpha Centauri A and Alpha Centauri B. Hypothetically, Alpha Centauri B may contain or host planets, but those planets may not be habitable as we think. First of all, also, Alpha Centauri A, if it did actually have Polyphemus and Pandora, then in the sky you would see a double shadow, or even a double sunrise and sunset. However, sunrises and sunsets are quite rare, and this can only happen if they're perfectly aligned together at the same exact sunrise. But and otherwise, if it's skipped, it would probably just look a bit. It would just look a bit different. I mean, it could look like the same aligning, but just a bit different. So yeah, Alpha Centauri B in the night that would eliminate would no longer just be a night. It would be a second morning, but it would just be a bit dimmer. So yeah, you would probably see in the sky. No longer night cycles would happen. Well, unfortunately, over time, humans would have significantly disrupted sleep cycles because when they're trying to sleep, Polyphemus and both Alpha Centauri B in the sky would significantly disrupt their sleep cycle. So I think the best thing is to do is that over time, humans would change their sleep cycles, and then so instead of just them getting their sleep cycles significantly disrupted over years, they can actually slowly adapt to that. So, well, they may have different eyes and also have a different brain, so they may change over time. Your brain would slowly adapt to this. Also, the same with gravity, because if it's between the sizes of Mars and Venus, then that would mean that since the gravity is quite close to Earth, but just a bit similar to Venus's gravity, then that means that humans would adapt to this gravity. And people sleeping may be easier once they are adapted to this sleep cycle.
You're thinking about this in a really cool sci-fi physics way, and a lot of what you're imagining is grounded in real astronomy. Let's separate.
Siri, are you a bitch? I don't know why I'm using ChatGPT, just don't mind about it, because I know I'm being a bitch right now. Hey Siri. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Siri, shut up, shut up. Here's what each satellite would be like here's what each satellite would be like on the 55 Cancri system. In Janssen, which is mostly the hottest planet in the system, because it's so close to its star that it orbits actually every few hours. It orbits around 17 hours for its full orbit period. So if its size was actually like maybe like somewhere like the size of Neptune, then that would mean that it would be a super extremely hot ice giant. But it wouldn't be just a gas giant. It would probably be completely rocky, because it would probably rather be larger than Earth, but also no longer be a gas giant. The only rocky planet in the system that could actually be possible if all of them were gas giants is just Janssen itself. But Janssen is no just ordinary like some planet. It's a deadly rocky planet that if you lived on there would probably die instantly. The temperature is much worse, even probably triple times worse than Venus, because its temperature skyrockets over 2,000 degrees Celsius, and it's so hot that living on there would just instantly kill you. Even if it had clouds and atmosphere somehow, then maybe those clouds would no longer exist because of its extreme hot temperature. But if somehow the clouds in an atmosphere existed, the pressure would probably be so intense that it would be even like maybe like 10 times more powerful than Venus's pressure. It may happen like its pressure may be so high that it's like maybe a few hundred. It's maybe like a few hundred like bars or something. That means that if it's over 500 or 1,000 bars, you can instantly die from that pressure. So yeah. Also, Jensen probably does not have any moons. Since it's so hot, satellites may be just asteroids if they somehow existed. But they may be burning hot. But I don't think those satellites exist. So they may actually don't exist at all. So yeah. The next is Galileo. No, not Jupiter. I'm talking about Galileo, the exoplanet. Yes, it may cause some confusion, because if you try to say like Galilean moons, you're not like trying to say the Jupiter, like the Jovian moons. You're trying to pronounce or say about the Galileans, but you're just sometimes getting people confused. So you think you're talking about the Jovian moons. So yeah. So we can also say we could call it Galilean, but it may cause lots of confusion, because multiple people would think that you're just talking about the Jovian moons, even if you meant that maybe an exoplanet like Galileo could have one. Okay, I'm back to this now. So 55 Cancri something, I forgot what the alphabet or something like that. Oh yeah, if 55 Cancri is C, or yeah, that's the name. Let me say this out. 55 Cancri C is basically a planet that that is quite hot. It is the second planet from the system. If it is actually the largest gas giant, was actually the second largest hypothetically, then it could be the size of Jupiter, but both it could contain moons. First of all, those moons may be Venus or similar to Mars, but their sizes may be a bit smaller. Their sizes may be similar to the moon or even Mars, but however, the largest moon may be hypothetically a Venus-like moon. It's like a mix or combination of like Mars and Venus, and if you combine them all together, it forms this one planet with a high pressure and a surface of iron oxide and even a hot ass temperature. Well, even less worse than that combination. There's maybe the largest moon in the Galilean moon is probably this one. So let's say if this is the size of the Mars, Mars, but between the sizes of Ganymede and Mars. And then let's also say that its surface is bombarded with heavy rain, and also having a sulfuric acid similar to Venus's rain. Let's also say again that maybe we can also say again that maybe it could have an atmosphere hellish like Venus, but less worse, because since the temperature could hypothetically be 100 degrees Celsius, it may be really hot, but the pressure may not be that intense. Let's say the pressure is around 30 bars, and that would be pretty intense, but still you probably could survive through it, only for a few minutes until eventually dying. This moon may be hellish, and this moon may actually exist within it. Some of the moons may be actually Mars-like too. For example, let's say a moon that has a very low pressure, or doesn't have one at all. Like it doesn't have an atmosphere. If it doesn't, then it would just be airless and rocky. Because without those atmospheres and without those custom looks or just unique looks or something, whatever I'm talking about, there would just be rocky, airless bodies that look uninteresting. However, with them on, and if they actually do have an atmosphere with different material, it could be maybe a Mars-like world. But it could be quite similar to that, but just in a hotter version. So yeah. Siri, 55 Cancri C. Siri, what is 55 Cancri F? 55 Cancri F. Is Toyota considered the best car? What is the most iconic Toyota vehicle that caused nostalgia? Toyota Supra. Has Toyota ever made an electric or hybrid version? Hey Siri, 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 Siri. Hey Siri, shut up, shut up. Apple, 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 apple. 55 Cancri, yeah, 55 Cancri, yeah, 55 good. Good line, good line, good line, good line, good. Good line, good line, good line, good line, good line, good line, good line. Good line, 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 good line. 55 Cancri, big, what, 55 Cancri, B, 55 Cancri, B, 55 Cancri, C. Bye. Sorry, wrong planet, because when I said 55 Cancri, 55 Cancri C, I thought I meant the Galileo named exoplanet, but I was wrong, and it was called 55 Cancri B, because I don't understand, but 55 Cancri E is just that letter, just E in it, but instead of just B, it's E in it, so that's why I called Galileo, that's why I called Galileo, C for some reason. So, whatever. But anyways, actually, the object that's called 55 Cancri C is called Brahe. Brahe is basically an exoplanet. If we were to say this is a gas giant, it could contain airless moons. These moons could actually be quite similar, but quite differently. Janssen 55 Cancri E may have no moons at all. They may don't exist at all, similar to Venus or Mercury. So yeah, it's like a version of Venus, but much worse with its closer orbit around a star and even much hellish temperature probably. If it's airless, it would be meaning that it would be a much worse Venus. A Venus or Mars. It would probably be a worser combination of the moon and Mercury or something like that. Or I can just say that's like a very worst combination or something. It's basically like a combination of Venus and Mercury, and it just leaves behind a very hellish world that's so hot that it burns into hundreds of degrees Celsius. There's probably a possibility that maybe you could probably live on there, but you can only live there on seconds. Only in seconds. If it's truly rocky, then you probably just burn up instantly because you're basically getting bombarded with insane temperatures. However, over millions of years, it would slowly evaporate because of the extreme temperature. Because sometimes rock, when it's exposed to extreme temperatures, can actually turn rather into lava, or even just even ash. If it's exposed even more, it could just leave behind ash or smoke behind. But in some lavas, they don't sometimes, somehow. Well, not lavas, I mean rocks. Sometimes even rocks do not. Rocks, rocks can melt sometimes, like they turn into lava, but some of them doesn't. So, yeah. The temperature is extreme around, well, a few million, the temperature is extreme around 2,000 degrees Celsius. That would mean that the temperature would be so high that if you put water on there, it would just instantly become water vapor and then melt again. Like, just be further melted. But not actually melted, probably just that the water vapor would even get smaller, so it could become pure gas, which is not visible. So, yeah. If you were to do that on Venus, the water would boil instantly and become water vapor. But for this one, it would instantly evaporate, just literally in a millisecond. So it could just turn into whatever this shit is. And now after that becoming like whatever this is, well, you cannot live on there. If you also were to somehow live on there, your blood would instantly boil. Everything would, all of your organs inside would be exposed for this temperature. Even your skin would probably just blister, like, literally, like, in a matter of seconds. And after that, you can no longer survive because your skin starts melting, and your body starts melting, and it leaves behind bones, or just your skeleton. But also, your skeleton also corrodes over these temperatures. So if it's exposed for extreme temperatures, it doesn't melt, but corrode, or just sometimes it turns into powder or become corroded. So yeah, and it would be so hot that it would just turn you into a dust or something like that. Brahe, I forgot to talk about Brahe, but anyways, let's talk furthermore about Brahe. So 55 Cancri C, which is Brahe, it's basically a gas giant that's actually real. If we were to say that if these gas giants did have satellites, then let's say that this is what it's gonna be like. First of all, Jansen's temperature is so hot that it's around 2,600 degrees Celsius, or 2,622 degrees Celsius. That temperature is so high that water vapor would instantly boil. Or sometimes, if you expose it with lava, it doesn't do anything, because it can actually still survive under extreme temperatures, because it doesn't melt. Rocks would slowly start melting over that temperature and become eventually lava, but some of them would just evaporate, so yeah. But water would instantly boil and then become water vapor instantly. So, yeah. And you can use those water vapors, but they may actually be very hot because it's exposed to extreme temperatures. The same, if you put ice in it, it would instantly boil and then instantly become a boiled water and then just become water vapor. Instantly. Even if you tried cooling down the planet, nothing would work at all. It's like basically cooling down a tiny object, like trying to put like ice in it, but it's so hot that it still doesn't work. So yeah, the only thing that only works is by blocking the star and completely blocking it, like literally, like completely blocking it so it won't happen. This basically helps it to actually, well, you know, if you actually somehow blocked it completely, then the temperature would drop dramatically. And since that happened, it would slowly start dropping, or something like that temperature. After that, it would become normal. But it's not just normal. Sometimes, like, if you block it, sometimes it would still be the same temperature, but it would slowly drop a bit. But if you were to completely somehow block the star, then it would probably, just, if you were to somehow completely block it, the temperature could drop down similar to Venus, but just in a dramatic way. So yeah, the temperature is also really dramatic because the temperature is so hot that nobody could actually survive. And also, the temperature is so hot that maybe your body would instantly die. even the water you consumed would instantly evaporate, and the organs would instantly fail because of the extreme temperature. Your nerves would act extremely like it's hell, but you eventually die from this extreme temperature. It's like a worser Venus it's like basically a worser Venus like version, but just to the point that water can boil instantly in a matter of milliseconds. So yeah. So if you ever seen a world like this, never even go to it, because this world is completely deadly. The same as Venus, but even a deadlier term. So the temperature is so high that you could just probably boil instantly. The atmosphere pressure in space engine says that it's 2,324 bars. I mean not bars. I mean ATM, or I meant, well, it's just called ATM or something. Or I can just change it, or hold on. Or I can just hold on. It's hold on, wait a second. What the fuck? I'm trying to look for something. Trying to convert ATM into bars or something, like BAR or something like that. So hold on. Okay, there. Now it's still the same. It says that it's 2,355 bars. That basically means that it's so high that your body would instantly collapse already. And even if that's not enough, water would instantly boil. And if it's somehow a gas giant, even if it's evaporating from this extreme temperature, it would probably be so hot that it could actually lose its gas over time. Also, since in the behind it is just gas or something, it could be scattered around the system, which means that if you're just gonna witness the entire thing, like literally seeing gas. Also, I think Jansen would be the brightest in the sky, because instead of just some other planets being pretty bright, I think Jansen would be the brightest ever, because it would just create this comet tail like a look, but actually because of, well, rapid, it's basically like a very rapid something, and so it's so hot that it could actually like the temperature is so hot that it's even short. Its orbit is around 17 hours. That's basically just shorter than a day. And also, fun fact, Galileo, if it somehow was exposed to this evaporation or something, would probably actually accumulate into it. Because since the gases evaporate and something, the gases can actually accumulate, which can happen on the moons. Even if they're Venus or Mars, they can accidentally be affected by one somehow if it ever catches one or captures one. Which would basically mean that it would be exposed to extreme hot vapor, or just those gases that already been vaporized. But if it's exposed somehow, then it would probably be already gas giants, because sometimes, or it would already be planets that would have too many gas contained in it, and that would be very hot gas, like turning them into Venuses or something like that. So yeah. The next is Brahe. Brahe is actually a great one, because instead of getting constantly bombarded with those, I mean, it's actually a great place. Well, it's quite great, but the moon still experiences hot temperatures, and the nights would be still the same, but you would see a very bright object, and that a star, the closest star, the brightest star you see is actually, well, some of them, but the second brightest or third brightest we could say is 55 Cancri b. No, not the Galileo star. The planet. But I'm talking about a star named 55 Cancri b, and this could actually, well, it could host planets. So yeah. Anyways, back to the thing. If you were to live on Brahe, then you'd probably see, well, maybe the rocky planets, the rocky moons may be actually rocky, because the temperature is quite hot. Galileo's temperature is around 300 degrees Celsius, which can be really hot. On Brahe, it's quite cooler, but still has a very hot temperature. Rotation is 11 hours on Brahe. That means that any moon that orbits around it would be probably gravitationally locked. And also, since they're rocky, their temperatures, because if you interact, if you just take an ice giant if you take an ice planet or an ice moon or something that's covered with ice, similar to like Europa or other icy moons, and then expose it with extreme temperatures like 100 degrees Celsius or 186 degrees Celsius, it would probably just melt slowly, and after that it would become an oceanic moon with a temperature with a ocean that would be extremely hot. Or it would rather just be evaporated slowly into a water vapor, which can actually just accumulate to the atmosphere. And let's say if there's a moon that has an atmosphere, and if it does, then that means that maybe it's a moon that has that in its atmosphere mostly contains water vapor, and that just basically means that. So yeah. So yeah. But if some moons had, or if they're rocky, probably it's possibly because that. Well, because since they're formed, their temperatures is already that hot, so they will no longer just become ice moons. They'll become completely different objects, like icy moons or something. So, yeah. They just may be rocky moons. Like, they may be, like, similar to Mercury. Let's say if there's also a moon that's also the size of Mercury or something. Like, if there's a moon that's the size of Mercury or the size of something like that, then that means that the overall temperature would probably be just the same as Mercury, but it would also mean that it would have its characteristics maybe just like Mercury in its size, and its size may be similar to Mercury if we were to say. So, yeah. So it's basically a Mercury, it's like Mercury-like, but a moon version. So, yeah. If we were to also say that the size is similar to Titan, but in a smaller way like Mercury is, then it would probably just be that. The next is Harriet. Harriet is actually... Ooh. Okay, now the next one is Harriet. Harriet may actually contain great ones. Because, well, first of all, Harriet is called 55 Cancri F or 55 Cancri AF, because the reason why it's called AF is because it's actually around in a binary system. So, yeah, that's why it's called it. But if the star left, it would no longer be classified like that. So let's talk back about this object. Now, Harriet, Harriet is around, its rotation is around 8 hours, which is a bit quicker than the rotation of Jupiter. And also, its orbit is around 259 days. Quite similar to Venus's year, but just in a bit of a longer way. Also, the moons could actually be quite habitable. Because since it's quite close to habitable zone, but not as a way as you think, the moons may actually support life, but not in a way as you think. Yes, the moons may actually be quite habitable, but still it's not actually enough to be habitable enough. So they are they're probably objects similar to Pandora, but in a bit of a deadlier way. For example, a version that's quite like Earth, but just in a much worser version, with colder temperatures. So maybe the moons that if somehow were habitable, but without the plants or just without vegetation, they could be rocky moons with small amounts of liquid water and possibly atmospheres that are similar to Earth, and also possibly they may have a bit of a different characteristic. So yeah. This actually is a great candidate, because if any moons existed, they may actually be a great target for exploration in the system. Because, basically, it's considered the second smallest in the system, but still is actually quite of a great target for moons in here, because if they existed, they could actually be habitable. So, yeah. They may contain habitable moons or something like that. So, yeah. So, yeah, they may contain habitable moons or something like that. But not as the way you think. The next is Lipperhey, the largest planet. If we were to say it's actually truly the largest planet, well, first of all, its orbit is around 15 years, which means that it's really long, actually. So that basically means that the orbits may, that the rotation, since it says 8 hours on Space Engine, that would mean it would rotate the same as on Jupiter, but just a bit faster. It would also mean that it would be a bit like more bulged, but that would mean that the moons would be pulled towards in it. Also, the moons may be a bit different. Here is about the moons. If they somehow existed, then they may actually be a bit different. The moons the moons may be icy, purely colder or icy, if they contained ice, like spherical moons. And also, the spherical moons are mostly gonna be icy or something like that. If they existed, they may be size like smaller than the moon, and they would orbit around it once every something days. Also, a night will no longer be night sometimes. Well, yes, it would be night, but you would see a giant object in the sky, and that's a gas giant named Lipperhey. Lipperhey, if it somehow also had satellites, would be spherical, would have very extremely cold objects, similar to the temperature of Europa or even Jupiter itself, because it says that the temperature is negative or minus 177 degrees Celsius. That basically means that the temperature is quite cold. An entire orbit around it lasts even longer than Jupiter's year. So a Jovian years last around a decade long, like 12 years. But this one lasts over pretty longer than that. So yeah. So anyway, back to the hottest and coldest points. The first is about Janssen. If they had a whole, well, let's talk about Galileo first. But like. Hold on, wait for a second. So the warmest point is around 385 degrees Celsius. No, actually, I meant the coldest point. The coldest point is this. The warmest point is around 388 degrees Celsius. But on Brahe, it's quite different. It quite shifts a lot because of its distance. So it's gonna be quite different. So, yeah. First of all, its colder temperature is around 180 degrees Celsius, and its warmest one is around 195 degrees Celsius. So yeah, Harriet's warmest one is around negative 13 degrees Celsius. So it's actually quite warm enough to actually support life for some moons. The coldest, actually, is around 33 degrees Celsius. That means that seasons on these moons may be quite dramatic. Instead of just normal ones, they may actually be dramatic. They may have seasons that may actually change. In the year 10,000, if all of these moons were terraformed, then you'll probably see this massive object in the sky. And you'd probably see a beautiful view. You'd also see some of the brightest stars, like one of that. And if you see that red dot in the sky, you're not just seeing an ordinary star like a red giant. You're seeing one of the stars that's orbiting around you, and that's 55 Cancri b. Sometimes, but for Lipperhey, it's quite different. Lipperhey is also its temperature shifts a lot because of its extreme distance. It shifts much more slowly. So that means that the coldest is around 600, is around 100, negative 187 degrees Celsius. That basically means it's quite cold. But also the warmest spot on here is around negative 170, wait, hold on, let me see again. It's around 175 degrees Celsius. Well, I meant minus on it. So that basically means it's really cold. So, yeah. Harriet and Brahe Well, first of all, Brahe, since Harriet and Brahe hypothetically look the same like Neptune and Uranus, then that means that, well, that basically means that, well, they may, well, and the other side is Brahe, so they may have a civilization inside it, but it may be also dramatic because, you know, it may be actually dramatic because, it may actually be quite dramatic, so, yeah. Also, Jansen would be probably pulsating because it's the comet tail, or I can just call it how the planet is evaporating, shows this weird if you like speed it up enough or like a few days, it'll pulsate extremely fast. But in like if you slow it down enough, like 10,000 ATS, it would probably like pulsate a lot pretty fast. And so the moons could actually be affected by this too. So yeah, because if the moons ever actually somehow got like if the moons somehow like somehow got like you know, if the I'm trying to say it, but like if the temperature somehow like got the moons or something, I don't know how to say it. I mean, like somehow like captured those moons, then the temperatures would rise, and it would also change the temperatures of the moons, and also change the temperature of Brahe. The next is Harriet. Actually, Harriet's pretty perfect, so the moons may be habitable. But if you were to look far out, you'd see just some hellish moons that don't even look interesting or just doesn't look great. So what are those? Well, you're just basically seeing those objects that are experiencing hell, like Brahe. So if you ever live inside a habitable terraformed moon and look up in the sky and towards the center of the star, then you would notice that the brightest the brightest planet is Jansen. So that means that also means that I don't know how to say that out loud, but I don't know what to say, but basically, what you're seeing towards the center, towards like that way where the star is at, or the star zone, they're actually experiencing hell. Brahe is experiencing hell, like high temperatures, like nearly to 200 degrees Celsius. Galileo's bruh. Galileo is also experiencing extreme temperatures, like 387 degrees Celsius, which is very hot. Jansen is experiencing the worst ever temperature of around 2,800 degrees Celsius. That is so hot that any person who's living on there would instantly die. So yeah, it would be extremely hot. But on the solar system, it's quite different. The only known system we know is just the solar system, because we live in there. Because we don't know any systems that actually look like. Well, we can say we already know a few systems out there, but not actually know what their planets look like, or what the star looks like itself. So, maybe in the future, maybe somewhere in the year 2100, or just in something, if we finally actually somehow entered the Proxima Centaurian system, or star system, then you'd probably see red dwarf Proxima, and you'd probably see 3 planets. If they somehow all existed, people would probably take photos of the inside of Proxima B. Also, terraforming is quite different. It's a worse version of Mars, and that's not because of its temperature, but because how its radiation happens. You see, Proxima is actually a very active star. It sends too much flares, and also it's way too active. That means that it would be hard enough to actually terraform it because the temperatures are hell. I mean, not temperatures. But the radiation dose is hell, because the radiation is pretty harmful, so it could strip away the atmosphere. If it's truly airless, then that would mean that it would just be a rocky, like Mercury-like world. But if it's also both a Mars-like world, it could be like Mars, but just in a much more radiated way. So it's very radiated around. So, yeah. Anyways, let's still talk about the fucking 55 Cancri system and keep talking about different topics. Now, if you just look at those 3 planets, they're experiencing hell. But outside, if you look at the other side, that very dim dot you're seeing out there is Lipperhay. Lipperhay is quite dim in the sky, hypothetically. Basically, if you somehow seen Lipperhay in the sky, at the night sky, you would probably just see it as a very dim object. That's because the temperatures, well, I mean, not temperatures, well, it's because of its distance, so, yeah. Also, I don't know what to say, but in the night, you'd probably see it a bit easier, but you'd see it a bit easier, but, yeah, I don't know, just, the fuck am I saying? The dimmest planet we can say is probably Lipperhay because it's so dim that it's also because it's around 15 years. All of the 4 planets are all together almost, but Lipperhay is quite further than that. It's even many times further than those. So it's like tripling them in a way like that in such a far ass distance. It's also so far that if you were to compare the binary system of 55 Cancri b and Copernicus, like complete full size or something showing in the image, you would slowly notice that if you look very, very closely to Copernicus, you notice there is an orbit, but you cannot notice. You cannot actually see Harriet. If Lipperhayan, if Lipperhayan moons existed, like from Lipperhay, then the moons may actually just be like icy moons. Harriet may be a bit different. Harian moons, or we can just call it Haritarian moons, I don't know how to say that, may actually be habitable a bit. Brahanian moons, or Brahanian moons, I don't know how to say that, on Brahe, could actually have moons that are pretty experiencing like hell. Some of them are similar to Venus and Mars again, so yeah, it could be similar to Mars and Venus again. Temperatures may be very hot, so yeah, maybe similar to Venus or Mars, so yeah. On Galileo, it's quite different. It could be even hotter, so it could be worse version of them, because, yeah. And a civilization around these 4 planets, if they somehow were colonized, like if somehow all of them, if 4 of them had moons, they may actually have different characteristics. People on Galileo would experience extreme temperatures outside, so they have to live inside, like to try to get some warmth, or just normal temperature. But they have to live inside bunkers, or rather, they have to live inside very cold down heating, cooling heating systems. Cooler systems, or whatever that is. On Brahe, it's similar, but just in a bit of a cooler way. It's quite cooler than Galileo, but has moons that are hellish. So, living on them would be impossible. So basically, people have to live on under bunkers, or just live in cooling systems, so they would have to adapt or survive. On Harriet, it's completely different. If they were all terraformed, then they would probably just literally survive forever. They won't just experience any issues like what they did, or suffer through those things. They just literally are completely safe and survivable. So, yeah. So, no longer those things happen no more on Harriet. It's completely like heaven, but just a bit different, because the temperature is quite colder or cooler. No longer people live inside cooler systems. They'll probably just go ahead and go outside like Earth does, because Earth is actually a perfect place. So since the temperature is perfect enough, they could just go outside, similar to like the Harrietian moons, or I don't know how to say that. So yeah, the moons may actually be pretty great. Now in Lipperhay, it's quite different. Those icy moons may actually be airless, similar to Jovian moons. So these ones may be actually airless. They may be like these airless. They'll be nearly airless icy bodies, very familiar and similar to icy moons from Jovian system. If there's 5 moons, then all of those people would live on there. They would no longer just experience heaven, they would experience like hell, again. Just in a cold way, because the temperature is so cold that it can give you hypothermia, and also can send off radiation. So yeah. So since that happens, you could probably just do is live in those moons. You could probably terraform them, but it would be extremely difficult because you need insane engineering and also some insane requirements. However, on Europa it's a bit easier with its temperature, but it's still harder. So yeah, the moons on Jupiter is quite difficult, but on Leperhae it's a bit harder because the star from the gas giant's quite much dimmer, so it may be very dim, and from Harriet is quite dim, but not in a way that's that dim. So yeah, the rotation is around 8 hours, which is quite great. But I don't know what to say, but it's rotating pretty fast. Well, here's about their sizes too. Jansen's size is probably gonna be the size of like larger than Earth. Galileo's size is actually the second largest because it says it's around 146,608 kilometers in diameter. And for Brahe, it's quite different. It's around 58,749 kilometers in diameter. Harriet's is around 56,296 kilometers in diameter. The largest of Leperhae, but the furthest or outermost planet, and it's around 154,875 kilometers in diameter. That means that each person that's living without Jansen there would mean that probably they would just have to survive in one of the worst conditions, but except Harriet, because it's like a perfect place, like heaven or something like that. So yeah, so it no longer would just be hell; it would probably actually be heaven. Siri, right down up, right down up, right down over. Siri, you got to photos. Siri. Go to photos, you fat bitch. Siri, go to photos. Hey, Siri. Shut up. Siri, do you think you're... Siri! Do you think you're a faggot? Siri? Should you shut the fuck up? Siri? Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Wee. Siri? Shut the fuck up. Work. I don't know what the fuck am I doing. Okay, I'm gonna leave. Goodbye, Dale. Oh, fuck.